Hey guys, it's Maria, and today I'm going to be talking about how to apply to college as a low-income student and also your experiences that you may encounter as a low-income student once you arrive in college. So personally, I am a low-income student. I attend USC, so my experience as a low-income student in college is only relative to attending like a prestigious quote-unquote private university. So yeah, that's my personal experience. I can't say what it's like attending any other school, but hopefully it may be able to offer some useful insight for you guys. So first off, applying to as a low income student, so definitely 100% apply for financial aid. I've made another video on the specifics of that, but yeah, basically apply to financial aid. Fill out the FAFSA and the CSS profile. Use your parents' 1040 tax returns to fill those out. On the common application, check that you use the check mark that you're applying for financial aid. And also, as a low-income student, there are hardships that you encounter that you may choose to write about in your essays and your short answer questions. Of course, no pressure if you don't feel comfortable or don't want to share those experiences. I have other videos about essay advice too, but if you choose to talk about those experiences, I think that would really stand out to an admissions officer and would make your application a lot stronger. Again, absolutely no pressure to, but I think you can really utilize your experiences of overcoming any struggles or hardships you may have faced. And okay, so that's the common application. And now here I'm going to talk about some other programs that are really great for low-income students. So I'm categorized into the low-income, high-achieving student. So I attended a very high-achieving high school where I had the resources to take a lot of AP classes, have relatively small class sizes, be able to take on a lot of opportunities. So I was really lucky to be able to do that, but I'm very aware that not all low-income students are able to do that. And so, and I don't have, for my personal experience, I don't have a lot of experience on, how to, navigate the application process as a low-income student who has unfortunately not been able to be exposed to great resources and everything in high school. But for low-income students like myself who are looking to apply to who consider themselves to be high achieving relative to other low-income students, you've been able to surpass the odds and been able to see yourself as a competitive applicant to some more selective schools. Sorry, this is kind of the primary audience I'm talking to. Again, I apologize in advance if my advice isn't particularly helpful to low-income students who have struggled a lot more and more under-resourced high schools and everything like that. So you want to apply to a high-achieving prestigious university, but you're not really sure to do that right. So the first thing is that for me, I personally wanted to go out of state and be able to, go to college somewhere new and, encounter all the challenges and the excitement that can all bring. But I'm aware that that's a very difficult reality for most low-income students. So what I would suggest if you consider yourself to be a competitive applicant is to apply to private schools. And I know there's the misconception that applying to private schools is too expensive, that no one can afford that tuition. And that's honestly pretty realistic for most middle class students. Middle class students tend to be cut in the middle of not being able to receive enough financial aid, but also not being able to pay full price at these schools. But as a low income student, you qualify for financial aid, hopefully a lot depending on the school you apply to. But I would say that most prestigious private schools have a need-blind admissions policy and have a large endowment and are able to provide a lot of financial aid, which should cover most, if not all, of your expenses and tuition. So apply to prestigious private schools like the Ivy League, any top 20 schools you see on the U.S. News and Rankings. And again, this can all be very intimidating. And it is when you when you look at the price tag, like, it's terrifying. But run the net price calculator on these schools using information that you've found from like your parents' tax returns, when you were applying for when you're filling out the FAFSA and the CSS profile, and the net price calculator should give you a good indication of whether the school has a generous enough financial aid policy to help you. So it's kind of counterintuitive to think about private schools like being cheaper than maybe your like traditional state school or any other like regional schools around you, but it actually can be in some situations. In terms of like the generosity of their financial aid. Public state schools, like UCs or things like that or CSUs can be limited by the federal budget, and frankly aren't given like a lot of money. But private schools, being more separate from that, or tend to have larger endowments and are able to be more generous. So again, this is all kind of flexible. It's not always like guaranteed that like top private schools will be cheaper than state schools, but I would say if you go to like a really elite school, it most likely is the case because financial aid policies are generous. But again, I'm just generalizing, but I would say don't be discouraged from applying to private schools because they also have application fee waivers for low-income students, so you really aren't risking anything except your time and your effort into applying to these schools. And if you get in, like, it could be like really, really amazing to have all these resources and everything. So apply to private colleges if you want to. If you don't, perfectly normal, perfectly fine. Public university is also fantastic. But I would say if you're afraid of applying to a private school because of the cost, don't be. Okay, and then the second point I wanted to talk about is some outside resources that may be really helpful for you when you're applying. So there's a lot of different programs that can help low-income students. I'm personally not familiar with all of them, but I know that two main ones are the QuestBridge program here on this website, and also the Posse Foundation. So I applied to the QuestBridge program and didn't get in, but I hopefully have some insight that can be helpful for you. I don't know much about the Posse Foundation. I personally didn't apply to it, but I know that it's I think not specifically catered towards low-income students, but it's a leadership program that is intended to help, I think, underrepresented students in higher education and, help them apply to college, succeed in college, all those things. And definitely check out all those resources. I'm just personally not that familiar with it, and I don't think I'm experienced enough to talk about those resources. But this is QuestBridge. So basically how it works is that you apply to QuestBridge with pretty much all the same information that you would apply with when you're filling out the common application. So a large personal essay, personal statement about 800 words for QuestBridge. And then similar to the common application in terms of prompts, talking about your experiences and who you are. And then filling out some short supplements about, again, maybe other significant experiences you've had, career aspirations, all those things. And then teacher letters of recommendation, maybe a counselor letter of recommendation, high school transcripts, extracurricular list, all those things. So again, all components similar, if not the same if not identical to the common application requirements. And you fill it out, and then QuestBridge reads your application, decides whether they want to select you as a student that they endorse, they support. I didn't make it past the first stage, but it's okay. So let's say you make it to the first stage, then you rank the schools that actually you do this in the first stage too, but if you're accepted, you rank the schools that you would most want to attend out of the QuestBridge partner list. So here are all the colleges here. So you would rank these schools. I think you rank about 10 of them, if I remember correctly, from 1 being the one you most want to attend, to 10 being the least. And then QuestBridge. So you apply to these schools through QuestBridge. They read your application that you submitted to QuestBridge earlier. Oh, and by the way, that first deadline to submit your application to QuestBridge is about late September, I think. And then from there, you get your results maybe in October, and then you start like ranking schools, and then you send out the application to any multitude of these schools, and then hear back from these schools in maybe about like November, I think about December. So that's kind of like a timeline range, just for you to have in mind. Again, all this information is also on the QuestBridge website too. So you rank these schools based on like ones you would most want to attend to least want to attend, and then they read your application, and then one of these schools will choose to match with you, or hopefully, if they don't, totally okay too. But if you're lucky, one of these schools will choose to match with you, which means that they accept you into the institution, and they will also give you a full ride scholarship. So everything, tuition, housing, tuition, room and board, any extra fees will be covered by the university. No loans, all scholarships and grants. And yeah, you've been accepted to the university with a full ride. And once you arrive at that university, then there are normally also QuestBridge chapters at each school, so you can lean on other low-income students at that school for support, and to build a community. And it's a really awesome program. So okay, and then let's say you don't get matched to a school, which is perfectly normal. I think the match rate is pretty low, so it can be really competitive because they're offering a huge scholarship to the students who do get matched. So you don't get matched, but you are able to, when you're applying to schools in the regular decision round, you're able to have a QuestBridge sponsorship, if that kind of makes sense. Of when you're applying to schools, college admissions counselors will see that you were accepted by QuestBridge, you just didn't make it to the match round. And that can help your application a lot. That makes you stand out. It shows that you're a low-income, high-achieving student who is capable of a lot of success, and that will definitely make your application stand out. But let's say you're like me, you don't make it past the first round, which is totally okay. It's a competitive process. I'm not sure what the QuestBridge acceptance rate is, but it is relatively competitive given the scholarships and opportunities and everything they're offering. So the good news is that you can completely use your QuestBridge application when you're applying to schools in the regular decision round. So again, because the application has a main personal essay, supplements, all that stuff. So you can use that exact same application and then send it out to schools in the regular decision round and then hear back from them. Or you can choose to scrap the QuestBridge application and just use your common application, essay, supplements, all that stuff, and that's also perfectly fine as well. So yeah, that's how QuestBridge works. I hope that helps. And I just talked about QuestBridge because that's the program I'm most familiar with, but other fantastic programs like Posse and everything also have amazing opportunities, so definitely check those out. I'm just not as informed on them and feel like other people could do a better job explaining them. But QuestBridge, I think, is definitely the program that should be the most well-known. It really does a lot, and it's fantastic. Would highly, highly recommend. There's no application fee to applying, so it's the only thing you really lose is maybe your time and your effort, but other than that, all the other components you would need to apply to school anyway. So I would highly, highly recommend applying to the QuestBridge program. I don't regret applying at all, even though I got rejected, because I feel like I learned a lot through the process and became familiar with all their college partners, which all have fantastic financial aid programs in order to be partners. So regardless of whether you get accepted into QuestBridge or not, if you can or if you want to, apply to these schools. They all should have fee waivers for low-income students, and they all, by being partners with QuestBridge, guarantee a generous financial aid package for low-income students. So highly, highly recommend QuestBridge. Can't express enough how much, even though I got rejected, but how important it can be and how life-changing it can be. You can read all the personal testimonies on the website. I'm not trying to turn it into too much of a QuestBridge ad here in this video, but I think it is a really important program that I don't think a lot of high schools really advertise to low-income students. So highly, highly recommend. Even if you don't think you're that much of a high-achieving student, it's definitely worth the shot. So that's QuestBridge, also Posse, other programs, and scholarships that you can find on our website. Okay, so now I'll just talk a little bit about what it's like being a low-income student at a quote-unquote prestigious high-achieving private school. I know that that can sound really intimidating to feel like you're kind of like a minority at that school. Um, and for this is just my personal experience at USC, but generally, I would say there is a significant portion of the student body that is low income. Currently, I think about 15 to 17% of every freshman class is made up of first generation students, and a lot of low income students are also first generation. I'm personally not, so I can't speak on that experience, but I know that there are like resource centers and everything that are being developed, but I would say it can still be a really difficult transition. So the reality is that most of your classmates will be really, 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 really wealthy in order to pay full price. Most students at these private schools are paying full price or nothing, or little to nothing as a low income student, so that disparity can be really demoralizing. I went to a high school that had a lot of affluent students, so I was able to utilize a lot of those resources and become, like used to that atmosphere of being surrounded by really wealthy classmates. So it wasn't too much of a shock to me when I got to college. But I know for my fellow low income students who didn't go to like really affluent high schools like me, it was a really difficult transition to suddenly be surrounded by people who could like, casually spend a lot of money like eating out, having like a MacBook, wearing these like really fancy luxury clothing brands and all this stuff. And it's like it can be really demoralizing to have to like budget and have a job on campus and try to work on your academics or extracurriculars and be barricaded by Greek life, for example, because of the cost of like member dues, being in like the hundreds of thousands, sorry, not hundreds of thousands, in the like a couple thousand a semester, which is a lot, or having to take out student loans. Like all this can really add up and can feel like really isolating, especially when your friends can afford to like live in a more expensive dorm or housing option without having to think about the costs, like all these things. And yeah, I just want to acknowledge that it can be really difficult to transition to that. But I would say that being in a college environment can also be a chance, like it's kind of like a bubble, and which can be really like demoralizing, but it's also a bubble where you could really like kind of take advantage of your resources and like really like rise up and use college as like that like educational equity tool that like so many people talk about. Of even though like socially it can be kind of like daunting and like demoralizing, I think academically you can also really take in stride, like your academic performance, meet with your professors. No one really goes to office hours, so you could be that person that goes like every day. There's so many resources on campus. The Career Center, the First Generation Resource Center, like any cultural centers you may want to be affiliated with. All these different resources are available to you, and frankly, most students don't take advantage of them. So you could really rise up and grind it out and like be really successful and build your network and have a lot of success. But I'm not gonna pretend like it's not easy. For most students, getting into your dream school is only like the beginning of the next set of challenges, and networking, job searching, internships, it's definitely a lot regardless of whether you're low income or not. And so having that additional hurdle can be really challenging. But I think don't let the imposter syndrome get to you. You were chosen for a reason. You were chosen for a reason over hundreds of thousands of other applicants. You have something special in you that the admissions counselors saw, and you are able to fully use all the resources that you have available to you. So yeah, I hope that helps. One more thing I wanted to mention. I think at least in terms of, this might just be a USC thing, but I know that a lot of, wealthier students talk a lot about, and also non-wealthy students talk a lot about study abroad, and that can seem like really intimidating. But I think for the most part, you're again, depending on which institution you go to, but financial aid usually carries over into study abroad, so it may actually be cheaper, or if not the same price, to study abroad somewhere at some point in your college career and have financial aid carry over and help pay for that. So I would recommend looking at that if you're interested. But I just wanted to also note on the study abroad thing that programs like that and other programs to travel and paying for unpaid internships and stuff are all available on your campus, or should be. And these programs that like sound expensive and daunting are actually like very accessible. So I would highly recommend reaching out to your support networks on campus. So yeah, I hope that helps. Being low income at like a private school. There are a lot of people who are there to support you, but in college you just have to like self-advocate for yourself a little bit more. So, reach out to advisors and professors and like faculty staff, any other people who may be able to help you. It's their entire job to help you in student affairs. So don't be afraid to reach out. Be like honest and open about your situation if need be, and they can definitely be accommodating and help with anything you're going through. Student health centers on campus can also help with mental health counseling and anything like that if you also need assistance. There's just a ton of resources out there, and I think imposter syndrome was definitely a big thing for me when I first got there. But it's not a competition. Like, there is no like immediate parallel with any single student's goals on campus. We're all different, all like looking for different like career paths and routes and like life goals. And so I think try not to like compare yourself to other people. We're all just like on our own roads towards our own goals and successes and everything. And I think just doing your best, keep pushing, continuing to push forward can be the best thing that you can do to really succeed and like even thrive in your environment, to find your people and do well in college. So yeah, I hope that helps. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and yeah, good luck with the process.